I know I haven't uploaded all week, like normal review wise, and you are just getting the good, bad, and ugly for, this week, and that's it. And that's because I was still fucking sick. I really wanted to do an Undertone review. That's not happening. Maybe if I have free time this next week, I might do it, but I'm finally not sick anymore, so I'm able to do this, thankfully, the day of, unfortunately, or actually the night of. So this will be going up, I think, around like midnight ish, but I'm happy to be here at least. It was a rough fucking week for movies. Like it was really, really bad. Last week I was expecting this week to be amazing. A lot of horror movies because it was Friday the 13th. I believe we got five horror movies. I could be wrong. And we had a couple of other big releases alongside them, but as you can see here, we only have two good releases. And that's it. And it gets even worse from here. But I'll just jump right into this. Undertone, a movie I did want to review, I'm giving a 7 out of 10. I'm thinking if I am able to watch this movie on my own, in my, on my TV or on my computer with my headphones on, this movie might be bumped to an 8. We'll see when the movie comes out. Digitally or on streaming or whatever it's going to come out on. I think this movie has so much potential to be so much better than it actually was in a theater setting. There's just too much noise in a theater. I think the idea behind Undertone still hits very, very good. The horror, the ambiance, the atmosphere of this movie is. Oh, see, I'm still coughing. Is still fantastic despite being in a theater filled with people talking, chewing on popcorn loudly, opening cans of soda. The AC going on for the first 10 minutes of this movie was absolutely unbearable, and I was actually about to leave until it turned off, which I was really happy about. And it was super loud. Everything just so loud. And when you have a movie like Undertone, which focuses so much on its sound design, and it's even its spatial sound work, you want to be in an app like in a setting where you're not surrounded by a bunch of noise the entire time. And I think this movie might just be better on a rewatch at home. I'm really hoping it is at least. I'm still giving it a 7 out of 10. I think even with all the you know variables that it couldn't control, this movie was still amazing. I think it really has a really slow build up, but that last 20 minutes of this movie is absolutely unbelievable. And the lore they try building up throughout the movie works very, very well as well. I think this was a brilliant, I believe this was a directorial debut. I could be wrong. I should have double checked that, unfortunately. I think everyone did a great job here. The only thing I really didn't like about this movie was a lot of the side characters. Um, just they just lacked emotion, and a lot of them also just lacked a lot of development throughout the story. She has a husband she doesn't want to live with and doesn't live with currently. We don't see him once at all, and then just a bunch of other characters we don't see or hear from for most of this movie, which I thought was very unfortunate. Maybe this movie was longer, a little bit more story building on the side. It could have been a little bit better, but I think on rewatch this will be an 8 out of 10. We'll see when the day comes. I might do a review then. And for Slanted, a guy said it in the theater after the movie ended. This is just this year's Substance, and I thought Substance was pretty damn good. I gave it a 7 out of 10. Slanted, I was debating. I think I'm gonna leave it at a 6 out of 10 instead of a 7. I wish the body horror was way more there. You really don't get it until the end of the movie, and that's it. There's literally zero body horror throughout the entire movie, which this movie's marketing felt like we were getting a really good body horror movie here, and um, we just don't. A lot of this movie relies more on its messaging rather than the actual horror itself, which is very sad for me because I really love body horror. It's one of my favorite movie genres of all time, but Slanted just doesn't give you enough, and I think if it did, it'd be a lot better. I think the messaging is very, very nice. Or sorry, not nice. It's just good messaging here and there for young girls, especially not being comfortable in their skin and trying to, and even more specifically, minority girls trying to fit in around their audience and their high school peers and stuff like that. And I think this movie did a really good job at that. And I'm happy body horror is sort of going more in this direction, and it's probably because of Substance, where we're getting a lot more body horror that just built off of the female experience, and I think that's going to work a lot better as time goes on. We get better, bigger directors doing these body horror type movies that I'm mentioning right now, like The Substance and now Slanted. A lot of the characters are just okay. The twist, very predictable. The one thing I really did enjoy about this movie is the ending. I really like how bleak it is. You never know. Does she go back to being full? Was it full Asian, or does she still have to live with part of her body looking like McKenna Grace? Shout out her, by the way, for getting the Daphne role. I thought that was really cool. And everyone being in line for the ethnos, uh, or changing the race and stuff. I really like that they didn't just like shy away from like the company shutting down or them being in a lawsuit and then you don't see it in the movie anymore. Nope, you have a full line of people waiting to change their race and all this stuff, and I thought that was pretty fucking great. So Slanted, I wish was just a little bit better horror wise, but it's still a good time. It's short, it's sweet. What much more can you ask for? And for bad this week, I have three movies, which I'm really sad about because I was looking forward to all three of these. I was gonna do a review on Reminders of Him. Of course, I was like peak sickness then, so unfortunately I didn't get that. I think this is the most mid movie of the week. It is perfectly mid. It is a 5 out of 10. I'm kind of getting sick of these romance novels being turned into movies because they just don't give you enough time to develop all these characters and all these stories. And I don't know how the books are, obviously, but it really feels like this movie just didn't have enough time to flesh everything out. Um, I don't know. I'm kind of upset. I really like Tyreek Withers, but the only three movies I've seen him in have all been pretty mid or bad. And I don't know if that's, his fault for picking bad movies, or he's just getting unlucky and all the premises for these movies sound very, very great, and they just end up being bad or mediocre like this. I mean, Him was bad. It was very disappointing. The new I Know You Did Last Summer, very bad, which I wasn't shocked about because those movies just suck. And then Reminders of Him, very mid. Like, I'm not sure what's up with him. He's clearly a really good actor. He's just picking really, really poor movies for his career right now. I know as time goes on, he's going to be a really big actor, and I'm really rooting for him because I really do like him. But I just feel like his choices so far have been absolutely horrible, like really, really horrible. I think the romance Reminders of Him was pretty okay. Like I said, a lot of the story just feels so not fleshed out at all, and I feel like it's because of the runtime, and it's because it's a book. This movie probably had to be 3 hours long for me to feel like for me to feel more connected to every single character. They rushed a lot of the stuff with the two main people and their romance. It feels like it's not there and then suddenly it's there randomly, and yeah, you can feel their connection throughout the movie, but we just need more time fleshed out. I really don't know. Maybe they should start turning these into Netflix specials, like 4-part specials, or TV shows or something, because these are not working as movies. I've seen four in the past 2 years alone, and they have not worked at all. And it's because of the runtime. You're not giving these characters time to flesh each other out. The story just makes no sense when you're rushing everything within 2 hours, which is very unfortunate. I was really excited for Reminders of Him, and while it's not absolutely horrible, it is very mediocre, and I think it's pretty disappointing. And I don't know which one I want to go here first. I'm gonna go with Storm Rider: Legend of Hammerhead. I don't think this movie is really horrible. I did have a good time watching it, but you can just feel the AI all over it. And while I do enjoy the story a lot, it's probably because it feels like they shoved a an AI bot to write a script, to write a story about a water version of Dune. I mean, everything about this movie feels like Dune. The main antagonist, the protagonist, the islands that the outfits they're wearing, everything just feels like Dune. And going through the directors and the writers socials, and you can see them promoting AI and writing and Gen AI and stuff like this is very unfortunate. I was really excited for this movie as a Croatian American. I was really looking forward to a Croatian, having his own movie alongside a Serbian on the big screen at an AMC. And like I said, while I did have a good time, it's so unbearable watching this movie and just realizing how much AI was probably used for this. You can see a lot of the transition shots are either really bad CGI or AI. You can't tell nowadays, unfortunately, because they just look so similar. But the story itself just feels so AI written, and I know they were doing so much talk about AI for this movie's promos, which is just so bad. I'm not sure. Another problem I have with this movie is them hiring all these European actors who clearly are not very good at English and having the entire movie being English. I think this movie would have been much, much better if you just grabbed everybody from a certain region of Europe and just had them speak their own language. You could have grabbed people from Nordic areas and just have the whole movie be in like Swedish. You could have had, the whole movie being Croatian or Serbian or whatever. You could have had the whole movie be in Russian. It doesn't really matter. I feel like this movie just needed to be a European movie, and it just tries so hard not to be. I think if you haven't seen Storm Riders, I give it a 4 out of 10. There's a world where I pretend like AI wasn't using this movie, and I do give it a 6 out of 10 instead, because I really did enjoy it. I had a good time, but it's just so unfortunate seeing something like this just being probably doused in AI all over the place. Uh, I'd recommend watching it though. You'd probably have a good time if you like Dune, and I'll just leave it at that. For the last bad movie of the week, this isn't the last movie of the week, which is very unfortunate. I'm gonna get to that after I talk about body cam here. This is just a VHS segment pushed to the now hour 50 mark, or hour 40 mark. Sorry. I was really excited for this. It was one of the most least talked about horror movies of the week, and there wasn't really any much push for it. And of course, it's a Shudder release, which is going to get even less talk and praise and whatever. Just too long. This is a VHS segment that is an hour 30. And if you know VHS segments, they are about 15 to 20 minutes long. This is very good for the first 20 minutes, and then it immediately falls down a cliff after that. This movie just takes way too long to finish. Um, if this was 40 minutes, this probably could have been really good. It just feels like after the 20 to 30 minute mark, it just feels like there's not much they need to do after that. And they're just doing so much nonsense afterwards after the 30-minute mark. It just doesn't feel necessary or, watchable. Maybe if Shudder told the directors, "Hey, we're willing to put this in the next VHS movie," maybe they would have done it, because this was a really, really good VHS segment, just drawn out way too fucking long. And if it wasn't as long as it was, or if it was just a segment in a VHS movie and I was, rating VHS segments, it probably would have been like an 8 out of 10. But it's not. It's not a VHS segment, so not much else I can say here. I think the CG is okay. I really hope a lot of that was makeup on the monsters and some of the damages the cops took, but nothing special here, really. Just way too long. I really wish it was just a VHS segment. It's very unfortunate, and I'm pretty sure everyone agrees with me who has seen Body Cam. And for the last movie this week, I unfortunately have an ugly movie. And it's not only an ugly movie, it is the worst movie I've seen this entire year. And I think it's going to stay that way until the year ends. If it gets beat by another movie, I'd be very, very sad. I'd be very sad, because this movie is horrible. This movie is really, really horrible. I was looking forward to Scared to Death. It was a movie I watched at 10 p.m. on a Tuesday? Monday? No, Monday. And, I got out at 12 and I was just like, holy fuck, I cannot believe I watched this. If you've seen my review for the movie BFFs, this is just BFFs if it was a horror movie. This movie is unbelievably horrible. And when you have a legend like Lin Shaye in this movie, and so many other horror actors who have been in so many great or pretty good horror movies throughout recent times, or at least the past 2 decades, you expect something a little bit better here. You get all these people. Surely they must have thought something great was happening here, but no, it's horrible. It's supposed to be a horror comedy movie. It's not funny in the slightest. I'm trying to think. There's probably not a single funny thing in this movie besides the guy named like Grog, and he's like, "I'm Grog and I'm here." And besides that, this movie is unbelievably unfunny, and it's so fucking bad. It tries so hard to be funny every 5 minutes, and it just does not pan out at all. The makeup and the CGI in this movie is absolutely horrendous. Everything looks horrible, poorly made. Looks like it came from the early 2000s, just like BFFs. If you've seen my BFFs review, I said this was a movie that should have came out in 2000, and like you'd find it in like a Walmart shopping bin. That is what Scared to Death is. This is an early 2000s movie you'd find in a Walmart shopping bin. Buy it, do a drinking game with it, and it's absolutely horrible, and you never want to watch it or hear about it again. Um, this was disappointing. The horror is absolutely disgustingly horrible. There's nothing scary about this movie, and they try so hard to do like these creepy little shots with the little girl, and it just doesn't work. There's almost nothing I can say positive about this movie. I think the acting is horrible. It feels like they were just telling the actors, "Have a good time. It doesn't really matter. We're just gonna, put this out in theaters and have all the idiots, watch this movie." The CGI, the makeup, everything visually just looks very, very fucking horrible. The script and the writing for the entire story itself, while it had a decent premise, it just sucked, and it just didn't land. If you haven't seen Scared to Death, do not watch it. This is easily the worst movie I've seen this year, And like I said earlier, if there's a worse movie this year, I'd be utterly surprised because this was fucking horrible. If you've seen any of the movies that I've talked about this week for the good, the bad, and the ugly, and you disagree or agree with me, let me know in the comments below. I am really intrigued if you guys did like Scared to Death. Did you like Storm Rider more than me? Did the AI bother you or not? Uh, did you have the same thoughts on Undertone as I did? Undertone, probably so much better at home, but maybe you really enjoyed the theater experience of that movie and just having a whole audience around you watching the horror intensify as the movie goes on. Let me know in the comments below. Of course, we have next week, which is going to be a really, really big week, alongside Project Hail Mary, and I'm forgetting. Oh, Pout Pout Fish. Yes, of course, Pout Pout Fish, the movie I'm really excited for. My number one anticipated movie of the year. Get ready for that next week.